Good day, everybody. You are welcome to this online class, and we are going to be talking about blood. At the end of this lecture, the student will be able to understand the introduction to blood, physical characteristics of blood, various functions of blood, compositions of blood, productions of red blood cells, different kinds of white blood cells, platelet functions. This topic, blood, and I'm going to treat it basically based on a uh, ordinary national diploma level. That is based on OND level. It might be more comprehensive if you are offering a degree course. So blood, blood, blood is a connective tissue in fluid form. That is, blood is a connective tissue in fluid form that circulates through the heart, arteries, veins, capillaries, and even move back to the heart. Blood is regarded as fluid of life. Why? Basically, the blood carries oxygen from the lungs to all parts of the body and carbon dioxide from all parts of the body to the lungs. All the oxygens needed by the tissues in the body. They are being conveyed or transported by the blood, basically from the lungs. And when the oxygen has been used up, they are transported back from the tissues. By that time, the oxygen has turned to carbon dioxide, and transported they are transported from the tissues back to the lungs for expirations. So blood is also regarded as a fluid of growth because the blood is capable of transporting or conveying nutritive substances like glucose, proteins, fats, and oils. So all those nutrients in the body, the blood is capable of what? Carrying them from the digestive systems, and also capable of conveying hormones from endocrine gland to all the tissues in the body. So once the hormones are being secreted by the endocrine glands, they are released directly to the blood, in which the blood will now convey them to the target organs, to where they are needed. So basically, they are conveyed to all the tissues. Blood is regarded as a fluid of health. Blood is regarded as a fluid of health because the blood protects the body against diseases and gets rid of unwanted substances by transporting them into excretory organs like kidney. So majorly all the protections are being done by the blood. That's why we see it as what? Fluid of health. And basically the white blood cells are the one responsible for this. So physical characteristics of blood. The color of blood is red, although arterial blood, that is the blood found in the arteries, they are bright red due to the presence of oxygen, while the blood found in the veins are dark red due to the absence of oxygen. Viscosity is another physical characteristic of blood. That is when the blood is 3 to 5 times thicker than water. You can also see that the blood is thicker than water. Then the amount of blood that we have, in fact, the blood constitutes about 8% of the total body weight. And basically, in adults, it comprises of about 70 ml per kg, 70 ml per kg of body weight. So in males, it is about 5 to 6 liters, while in females, it is about 4 to 5 liters. So basically, the amount of blood in an adult ranges from 4 to 6 liters. The temperatures. The temperatures of blood is 100.4 degree Fahrenheit, which is also approximately to 38 degree Celsius centigrade. Then the pH is 7.35 to 7.4, which is slightly alkaline. The specific gravity is about 1.052 to 1.061. What are the functions of blood? The number one functions of blood is respiratory functions. The blood is capable of transporting oxygen from lungs to tissues and carbon dioxide from tissues back to the lungs. It's a good functions. The blood is responsible for that. Nutritive functions is another one. The blood is capable of transporting food from guts to tissues. That is to say, all the food nutrients from the alimentary canal to where they are needed in the body. Even the brain is not excluded. The glucose is transported from the alimentary canal to the brain for the brain to use up the glucose. Excretory function is another one. The blood transports waste from tissues to kidney. The blood transports waste from tissues to kidney. So waste like urea, uric acid, they are being transported from tissues to kidney, in which they will be what excreted out. Protective function is another one. White blood cells, antibodies, antitoxins, they are the one protecting the body against microbes, pathogens, and microorganisms. So more functions is the blood is capable of storing some substances like glucose, sodium, potassium, proteins. Then another function is the body temperatures. The blood is capable of regulating the body temperatures in the sense that the blood loses heat to the body, and in some condition as well, when the blood absorb heat too from the body. So we make sure that there is always equal, the heat gain always equal the heat loss. Another one is transport of hormones and enzymes. It's another functions of the blood. The blood is capable of transporting some hormones like growth hormone, pituitary gland hormones like thyroid stimulating hormones and the likes, prolactins and the likes. So the blood transport them from where they are secreted from the endocrine glands and to where they are needed in the body. Likewise, the enzymes as well. So let's go to the compositions of blood. There are two components of blood basically. We have 45% blood cells, 55% plasma, meaning that there are two components of blood in which we have blood cells, also known as a formed element. The liquid portion is the plasma. So if you look at the test tube here, we see that the one up after the separations is what we have plasma, which always comprises of about 55%. Then between them we have what is called buffy coats, which comprises of what white blood cells and platelets, and we have red blood cells, which is what 45%. The blood cells are three in number. The red blood cells, they are typically red, are also known as erythrocytes. They are red due to the presence of what hemoglobin. It's the hemoglobin that is the coloring pigment that made them to be red. So erythrocytes, normally the erythrocyte count is 5 times 10 to the power 6 per ml, which is approximately to about 5 million cells. So basically it ranges from 4.5 million cells to 6.0 million cells. But averagely it is 5 million cells. Then white blood cells too is another one, leukocytes, which is colorless. That is 7 times 10 to the power 3, that is 7,000 cells per ml. Platelet is thrombocytes, also known as thrombocytes. That is a 3 times 10 raised to the power 5. That is about 300,000 cells per ml. That is the normal count for it. Then the compositions. We all know that the whole blood is about 8%. Then what will be the remaining one? The remaining ones are the other fluids and tissues, which comprise of about 92%. But inside this whole blood, we have 55%, which is allocated to blood plasma, and the formed element, which is the 45%, out of which we can derive the red blood cells, white blood cells, and the platelets. Then for the white blood cells, we have different types of white blood cells, which are what neutrophils. Neutrophil comprises of about 60 to 70%, while the larger portions of it belongs to what neutrophils. Lymphocytes 20 to 25%, monocytes 3 to 8%, then eosinophils comprises of about 2 to 4%, basophils comprises of about 0.5 to 1.0%. Then the blood plasma comprises of basically water 9.15%, which sometimes you can say it as 92% of it is water. Then proteins is 7%. Then the proteins are in form of what? Albumins, globulins, fibrinogens. Then solutes, electrolytes, nutrients, gases, respiratory substances, vitamins, and waste products. Those are the compositions of the it. Then the blood plasma itself, the color is always straw colored, clear liquid, and contains 90% water and 7% plasma proteins. They are created in liver and confined to the bloodstreams. The albumin, their major work is to maintain blood osmotic pressure. And immunoglobulins, those are the antibodies that bind to foreign substances called antigens. They are the one that binds to make sure that they aggregate, they group them together, and they clump the antigens. So immunoglobulins. So fibrinogens, those are is the closing factor one responsible for clotting. So you have 2% other substances like nutrients like glucose, amino acids, then electrolyte like sodium, chloride, potassium, gases like oxygen, carbon dioxide, and several hormones and waste products. What are the functions of plasma proteins? Plasma protein is a constituent of what? Of a typical plasma. And the functions are to regulate, coagulate blood. Coagulations of blood is the major function of it. Why? Because it comprises of fibrinogen, and fibrinogen will always convert to what? Fibrin, to make coagulations of blood to take place. Another one is defense mechanisms of blood. Defense mechanisms of blood, that is immunoglobulins. Immunoglobulins, they are the one responsible for the defense. They are the one of the constituents of what? Of plasma, which are responsible for what? For the defense mechanisms of blood, for the clumping activities to take place. Transport mechanism is another one. That is alpha albumin, beta globulin, transport hormones and gases, and the maintenance of osmotic pressure in blood. This one is done by albumin, which is one of the constituents of the plasma. Acid-base balance is also a function of plasma proteins, and then it also provides viscosity to blood, especially the albumin and globulin, and they also serve as reserve proteins. Those are the functions of the plasma proteins. So the formed elements: red blood cells, white blood cells, granular leukocytes. Granular leukocytes belongs to neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils, because we group white blood cells into two based on the presence and absence of granules. The one that has granules the one that have granules, we regarded to them as what? Granulocytes or granular leukocytes, which is in form of neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils. A granulocytes, they are without granules. They are without granules, and they are in form of what? Lymphocytes and monocytes. And the last element is platelets. The diagram is there below. Then the red blood cells. The red blood cells is always non-nucleated. That is, they don't have nucleus. And they are red in color due to the hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the coloring pigment that gives the red blood cell its coloring to make it red. Some of them are larger in number compared to other blood cells. In terms of size, they are larger. Then the shape is always dumbbell in shape. That is the shape of a good and functional red blood cells. It's always dumbbell. Then if you look at it, the red blood cells is always thinner at the middle, but at the edge always big, larger. And that is why that we can see the differences in the diameter there. Then productions of red blood cells. How do we produce red blood cells? It is produced through a process known as erythropoiesis. Erythropoiesis is the process of the origin, development, and maturations of erythrocytes. Where are the origin? That is, blood cells, where the blood cells formed? The blood cells are formed in red bone marrow, especially in the stem cells, because the stem cells are located inside the various red bone marrow. Red bone marrow of bones like red bone marrows of bones like long bones, long bones that is femur, long bones that is femur, humerus, tibia, fibula, and the likes. Then these are what usually undergoes the developmental stage. These are all usually undergo developmental stage that takes about 7 years. The developmental stages are the pro-erythroblast, the erythroblast, the nomoblast, which is even in form of three, that is the early nomoblast, the middle, and the late nomoblast. So the last developmental stage in which stem cells undergo before it can form red blood cells is what? Reticulocyte. Reticulocyte is an immature erythrocyte. Then after that, they are now converted to a mature red blood cells. The lifespan for a typical red blood cells is about 120 days. When we have some factors that are regulating the productions of red blood cells, the hypoxia, that is insufficient oxygen, will make you to produce more red blood cells. Then erythropoietin, which is an hormone, will also make you to produce what? Red blood cells. So functions of RBC. The first function is transport oxygen from lungs to the tissues. Oxyhemoglobin. Transport oxygen. Because the RBC has affinity for oxygen. So they are able to transport oxygen from lungs to the tissues. The oxygen binds with hemoglobin. So in the sense or in the form of doing this, they were able to transport oxygen from lungs to the tissues to form oxyhemoglobin. Then transport carbon dioxide from tissues to lungs is another function of RBC. So carboxyhemoglobin is a typical one. Then hemoglobin also acts as a buffer and regulates the hydrogen ion concentrations. In fact, in the carrying the blood group antigens and Rh factors, RBC is very, very important in that, because they are the one carrying the blood group antigens, the antigen A and antigen B, and resource factors as well. So white blood cells is another form element we are going to talk about. Their color is what? Colorless. They are always larger in size and lesser in number, comparing to RBC. RBC have 1,000,000 cells when white blood cells is just 1,000. Then they are nucleated. White blood cells is nucleated when the RBC, the red blood cell is non-nucleated. Irregular in shape. They are not having a specific shape. There are many. We have many types of them, about 5 types. That is neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, monocytes, and lymphocytes. The granules are present in some types of white blood cells, which made us to classify them into what? Granulocytes and agranulocytes. Their lifespan is shorter. It depends on the types of white blood cells they have. Then this is the diagram for them. The neutrophil. You can see it is a multi-lobed nucleus, and it consists of about what? It consists of about 4 nucleus. Then the granules there is fine, and it always stay blue with methane or eosin. When the eosinophils has coarse granules with eosin stay, it will stain red, and bilobed nucleus. The nucleus is bilobed. Then basophils, coarse granules with methane blue stay. Then the bilobed nucleus. They have bilobed nucleus. The monocyte, they have clear cytoplasms. They don't have granules. Clear cytoplasm, they don't have granules. And the nucleus pushed to one side because they have a larger nucleus. Then the lymphocytes also have clear cytoplasm, and the nucleus is like occupying the whole cytoplasms, very big. The lifespans of white blood cells is based on the different types. The neutrophil can only spend about 2 to 5 days, although constitute the major component of white blood cells. Eosinophils can spend about 7 to 12 days, when the basophil can spend about 12 to 15 days, monocytes 2 to 5 days, when lymphocytes about 12 hours to 1 day. So what are the functions of neutrophils? The first line, they play first line of defense against invading microorganisms. They also play a role in defense mechanisms of the body along with monocytes. The functions of eosinophils, they play a role in the defense mechanisms of the body against parasites. Detoxifications is one of the functions of eosinophils. They detoxify harmful substances, disintegrates, and then they also remove the foreign proteins that are very harmful to the body. Then eosinophils count is always increased during allergic diseases like asthma. If somebody is suffering from asthmatic attack, so if you check the person at that time, you have more eosinophils counts. So functions of basophils, this one plays role in healing process and also play role in what? In allergy. The functions of monocytes, they accelerate inflammatory responses. The rate at which there is a spreading of a particular injury, they accelerate it, and destructions in which they accelerate the inflammatory responses and make sure that they curb them and reduce them. Then the instructions of invading organisms, aggregations of platelets, grouping them together in the sense that in the form grouping them, they are the one providing it. The functions of lymphocytes is another one. They destroy invading microorganisms, activations of immune system, promotions of inflammations. Those are the functions of lymphocytes. So platelets is constituted by cell membrane or surface membrane, just like a normal cells that is studied under three headlines: the cell membrane, the cytoplasm, and the nucleus. So the same thing here for the platelets. It is constituted by three things based on its structure: the cell membrane, which is the surface membrane that cover the platelets or thrombocytes; the microtubules, that one just like an extensions; then the cytoplasms, which house or comprises of various organs like mitochondria, like glycogen, so several ones like that, several organs. They are being housed by the cytoplasm, and the normal platelet count is 250,000 cells per QUMM of blood. The typical platelet has three properties, which are adhesiveness, aggregation, and agglutinations. Adhesiveness, aggregations, and agglutinations. Adhesiveness means sticking to a surface, meaning that the platelet is capable of sticking to a surface, and aggregations it is also capable of clumping, capable of grouping itself. Aggregation is capable of grouping itself, eh? And make sure that they reinforce themselves. Then the agglutinations is also clumping. That one means clumping. It's always at times in form of a clotting. So what are the functions? Blood clotting is the typical functions of platelets, in which there is the formations of intrinsic prothrombin activator that even starts the processing of clotting. Clot retractions, defense mechanism too is another one. Homeostasis, the measure that they maintain balance. Then repair and rupture of blood vessels. This is also a function of what platelets. So these are your assignments. Please try to attempt these assignments and follow the necessary instructions. Don't forget to type your name, department, class, highlight the five functions of blood, differentiate between the red blood cells and white blood cells, which I believe by now it should be very, very easy. So the aim and objectives of this class has been met, and I really thank you for listening, and I thank you very much. So see you next time.